I'm not saying he's going to lose. I give the other man a chance to beat him. But if he loses, you know what? He just lost to a really good fighter.
In boxing, every fight is important. As, after all, history has shown us repeatedly that it's the nights you least expect problems that can have disastrous consequences. However, turning up on the night has never been an issue for a man fighting for the love of the sport and his people. Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao. From the unknown to the sport's most decorated, the small, fast Filipino has been consistently excellent throughout a 25-year professional campaign. In which case, it becomes a near impossible task to boil down some of the greatest occurrences of a man who has excelled expectation and pulled off the unthinkable time and time again.
Pacquiao should fight here. He shouldn't try to get into a boxing match with this master boxer from South Africa.
Please click thumbs up, subscribe, and press the bell button if you're new to the channel, as we attempt to narrow down an incredible 70-fight career, showcasing 5 nights in particular that Manny Pacquiao shook the boxing world.
Never seen anything like that.
Welcome to a Motivedia presentation. The first on our list is the night which initially set Pacquiao on the path to superstardom 16 years ago.
130 pounds, champion.
Stepping in against the master technician and Hall of Famer Marco Antonio Barrera.
Champion of the world, the baby-faced assassin.
Understandably, with his relatively unassuming resume of 21 wins, 2 losses, and 1 draw, the Filipino was widely overlooked in the build-up.
Pacquiao has been prepared for what to expect from the crowd and blows kisses as they boo.
Though little did the Mexican champion know, a tornado was coming his way.
Barrera says that he sees in Pacquiao his own younger, hungry warrior self.
In his first step up to featherweight, the speed of Pacquiao stood out immediately. And with the move in weight came an increase in power, knocking Barrera down in the 6th.
Hard left hand, straight on the button by Pacquiao, down goes Barrera. He's been knocked down 3 times in his career.
Barrera was never going to be broken mentally, but that physical, systematic beatdown turned Manny Pacquiao into boxing's hottest prospect overnight.
He's getting hurt. Here comes Barrera's corner. Barrera's corner man is up on the apron. He's going to step into the ring. That's a good decision.
Second, we skip forward 3 years to another elite Mexican opponent, and this time in what would be their second fight after Manny lost a unanimous decision 18 months earlier. The slick and dangerous Eric El Terrible Morales.
A very smart fight by Eric Morales so far, and he bangs Pacquiao with 2 right hands.
It is widely believed that after losing the first matchup in his first stint on pay-per-view, Pacquiao adapted his training to become the more complete fighter.
Pacquiao's going to be looking hard for people who want to face that kind of devastation.
Thus, in the rematch, with more attention to hitting the body and shot selection, the Filipino turned everything in his favor.
Hard shot by Pacquiao. Yep. And this crowd reacting to these 2 are warriors. This is as close as you're going to get to gladiators.
So much so that in the 10th, he managed to stop Morales for the first time in his career.
Now goes Morales.
The fight is over.
In an exquisite show of heart and adaptability, we saw Pacquiao gain the experience that, no doubt, helped build him into the fighter we see today.
The prospect of Manny Pacquiao getting better is frightening to everybody at 130 pounds, maybe even up to 135. He was faster, the head movement was better, his punches were harder. I don't think I've ever seen him look any better than that.
For number 3, we look later in Pacquiao's career to what can be considered one of the most humbling, bittersweet victories of the modern era.
Come in and have the best Manny out there, because, after the fight, I don't want to hear any excuses.
Pacquiao's making excuses that he's not training, he's missing the election, all that. But you know what? To me, I think he's scared, and Freddie Roach is scared.
Not just because of the David versus Goliath comparison, where Pacquiao came in 17 pounds lighter and 6 inches smaller, but because his opponent, Antonio Margarito, had been suspended for illegally loading his hand wraps a year prior.
The commissioner flipped it open, and a block fell out of it.
Entering the bout with arrogance, mocking Pacquiao and his trainer Freddie Roach, the Mexican fighter expected to bully and overpower the Filipino.
Antonio Margarito has said that Manny Pacquiao better be ready for war. Pacquiao always is.
Instead, Manny hit him with every shot in the book, showcasing a beautifully violent display of speed, power, and rhythm.
He's backing Margarito up, and he's hurting him.
Winning a clear, unanimous decision to become boxing's only 8-weight world champion.
Congratulations, Manny, on another brilliant performance. That's a pretty big guy you just beat up. What was that like?
And despite claims of Pacquiao having no power, a broken orbital bone which was initially too swollen to operate on says otherwise.
I have always said I'm unbeatable at 10 stone, and I really do feel that way. Manny Pacquiao is a very, very aggressive fighter. I think everybody has been a little bit wary of his aggression. I know a man who won't be. That's me.
Number 4. Another night where fans would be able to draw comparisons between Mayweather and Pacquiao. This time based on how well they could handle a strong, aggressive, hard-hitting Brit. Namely, Ricky the Hitman Hatton.
Between the two fighters, they've got on well in the build-up to this. Two gentlemen, there ain't no bad.
Where speed and power was expected to favor the Englishman, Pacquiao, in trademark style, made it an advantage of his own.
They are warrior kings with armies of fans who follow them to the battle.
It became immediately clear that it was a night that belonged to the Filipino, who dropped Hatton in the first round.
And down goes Hatton after he swings and misses with a left hook.
And to put it no better way, a night we will remember for its swift, brutal, picture-perfect ending.
Oh my gosh, what straight left hand.
Now 49-3-2, Pacquiao solidified himself at the time as the best fighter in the world, and having dispatched two of Mayweather's mutual opponents in impressive style, it was around this time, with the pressure and the hype growing, that the Maypac pursuit began.
Floyd Mayweather Jr. is coming back. If he wins that fight, is that a fight you want, you and Mayweather?
Last but not least, and it was a year earlier, in fact, that Manny had beaten his other mutual opponent.
This is going to be the biggest event in boxing history. This is a global event.
In a night that many consider to be the proverbial passing of the torch in Pacquiao's greatest and most pivotal performance. Another occasion where the Filipino defied the odds by moving up 2 weight classes to face Oscar de la Hoya.
Past his prime, but still a very, very good fighter, a terrific fighter to say the least.
And that night, where the spotlight beamed its brightest, Pacquiao's ability has never looked more deadly.
And his speed has probably been a little bit of a surprise for Oscar so far.
Bundling everything he knew into one airtight performance, Manny boxed a perfect fight.
15 seconds to go, and De La Hoya's in trouble.
He can't get off these ropes here.
Landing combinations through the fight, hitting the target more and more easily as it progressed, until, after some particularly brutal middle to late rounds, Oscar decided not to come out for the ninth.
It's all over. The fight is stopped. It's all over.
Not his best victory on paper, but the performance as a whole was something very special. A stoppage win on the biggest stage, in a victory that, ultimately, saw the Filipino crowned the fighter of the decade.
And I think the best is yet to come.
A man who has truly seen and achieved it all within the sweet science. Fighting 30 world champions, titles across 8 divisions, lineal across 5, and despite not getting the result, the biggest grossing boxing match of all time. And now, fighting into his 40s, the decorated Filipino somehow keeps us guessing, pitting himself up against an entirely new era of fighters. This time it's Keith Thurman, another young and hungry champion that comes with the same intentions as those before him. Risky, dangerous, yet inspiring. And after showing he can still cope at world level, where Manny now decides to toe the line and call it a day is truly up to him. Though one thing is for certain, history will look back kindly on boxing's Filipino superstar. One thing most everyone can agree on, it is brutal in the great outdoors. The latest example, big trouble from the continent of Africa. Lions versus wildebeest. Their latest matchup hamstrung in negotiations. Wildebeest insist on top billing on the card, whilst the Lions are demanding a more public and air-conditioned venue. Commentators say, however, that the real sticking point is, as always, money. In the meantime, National Geo and other desperate promoters have been staging death matches between rival poacher groups, hoping to keep the tour groups coming. Whatever the outcome, you'll get the honest story here in a Motivedia presentation.